Hello, I'm super excited to introduce my special guest, Doug White. Doug is not only my first male interview on this podcast, he's also my first multiple Abraham Hicks Hot Seater, meaning he's been in the hot seat many times in past Abraham workshops. Doug White is a former Major League Baseball pitching coach. He was a director of pitching for the Los Angeles Angels. Prior to that, he was the assistant pitching coach for the Houston Astros, while also spending time as their pitching coordinator. He has won 4 championships in his last 6 years as a minor league pitching coach, while also being a part of 2 World Series championship organizations. Fast forward to most recently, Doug has taken his expertise as a major league pitching coach and combined it with his passion for personal growth to co-found soul-centered workshops. He is also the co-founder of the Mindful Vibin Podcast with his sister, Dr. Jen Huberty. As an emotional awareness coach, Doug's understanding and explanation of how we can use our emotions as our guide allows his clients to harness their individual power to deliberately create their own lives. Let's get started. Hello, Doug.
Hello. How you doing, Rhonda?
I'm doing great. I'm really excited to talk to you today.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Yeah, like I was just telling you a minute ago, I found out about you. Gina Mallison said, "Oh, you should interview Doug White," and I did hear, I did know a little bit about. I heard your name before. Let's just say that. That's all I pretty much knew. And then, so she said the baseball guy, and I said, okay, great, because I trust her. And if she said that I should interview you,
yeah,
that's enough for me. And but having since then had the opportunity to research you and find out, oh my gosh, this guy's like, he was a Major League Baseball coach for pitching, and he was like in the Abraham Hicks Hot Seat, like a multiple hot seater.
Yeah.
Wow.
Many times. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. You didn't tell me any of that. Well, you told me about, I knew about the baseball. Once I picked that up. So yes. And so I'm really super excited. And I'm going to confess, so I feel like a stalker. I've been listening to your podcast now.
Nice.
And I listened to, with the podcast, Mindful Vibin with your sister. Yeah. And then even another one you did with a gentleman named Brandon, I think.
Yeah, Brandon Harris. Yeah.
So feel like a stalker. But I've just been really enjoying your content and your message.
Thank you.
I'm really excited about bringing what you have to share to our listeners.
Yeah.
And I'm going to let you tell me a little bit. I want to start out with, tell me a lot, actually. I'm going to let you tell me a lot. I'm going to let you talk a lot. Okay. I want to first ask you, how in the world did you go from a former Major League Baseball pitching coach?
Yeah.
Involved in the winning of 2 World Series?
Yeah. I got to be inside of 2 organizations when we were able to win a World Series championship. So that was awesome.
Oh my goodness. Oh, and I have to say, there's lots of firsts going on. You're the first male.
Oh yeah, yes, that's awesome.
I'm interviewing for this podcast, so I'm really excited about getting the male point of view.
That's awesome.
And my first, Major League Baseball coach to interview.
Might be your first and your last on that one.
Yeah, probably. I don't know that much about baseball, but I do like it better than football. That's all I can tell you.
Okay, that's good.
And then how did you go from there to a Mindful Vibin podcaster and talking about, you're leading these workshops, these soul workshops. My
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah.
Well, tell me, how did I guess you started your spiritual journey while you were a baseball pitching coach?
Well, actually, I started it way back when I was 19 years old, even more so when I was 18, when I was actually trying to play baseball. So when I was 18, I went to this thing called Lifespring training. And it's not called that anymore. I think it's called Landmark, but I went to this thing called Lifespring training. And for me, I did the basic training and the advanced training. And for me, that's like my I call it the bachelor's degree, where it taught you, it introduced you to being responsible and accountable for your own life. And it also introduced you to understanding the relationship of giving and receiving love. And that's kind of like, that's all you really need to know about life, and you'll be good from there, right? And I didn't understand that until that workshop, and then soon after I was through with, I believe, both the basic and the advanced, my mom introduced me to Abraham Hicks, right? Jerry and Esther. So we went to a workshop in Phoenix, and we were sitting there in the audience, and I didn't know why I was there. My mom just said, "Hey, you want to come to a workshop with me?" I said, "What's it about?" And she said, "Well, just come." And I said, "Okay, no problem." So we're sitting in the audience, and Jerry comes on and he does his spiel, and it was awesome, and you're laughing, and all right, this is great. Okay, cool. And then here comes Esther, and Esther says hello and goodbye, right? Mm-hmm. And then her head starts moving around in circles, and I'm looking at my mom like, "What did you bring me to? Or what are we doing?" And my mom's like, "Just relax and just listen." I said, "Okay." So, Abe starts talking, through Esther, and I'm like, "Wow, this is really cool information. This makes a lot of sense." And then the first person comes into the hot seat, right? Asks a question, comes sit down. I'm like, "Wow, this is really cool." And I looked at my mom and I said, "Man, well, I really want to know about this," right? And I told her my question. And then the next person in the hot seat asked my question. And then my mom says, "Well, shoot, if that's how that works, I want to know about this." And then the next person in the hot seat asked her question. Wow. And so we were both looking at each other like, "Oh, there might be something to this. We might want to pay attention here." And so I've basically been hooked ever since. And so really my journey is that for me to be able to make it to the big leagues as a pitching coach, I never made it as a player. I wasn't a very good pitcher, to be honest with you. I could never get into the groove of that belief about myself and being able to create a pathway for that, right? So I was always supposed to be a coach. That's just who I am. And when I started to coach professionally, after not even being able to play professionally, I had a lot of doubt about, I don't even know how I got here. Like, oh my God, I'm in this position now, and I don't really have a lot of belief about where I'm headed. And so I started that relationship between my thoughts and my feelings about me personally as a coach and a person. And can I be this guy who eventually can get to the big leagues and gain trust and earn respect and all those sorts of things. So I went down my path. And eventually I figured it out. I stopped self-sabotaging. I got out of my own way, all those things that you hear around in society, right? And eventually I made it to the big leagues. And when I got there, I was like, wow, this is really cool. I understand it now. I get it. But I think there's something more for me. I think there's other things out there for me that would bring more of who I am to the forefront, instead of just doing it in one aspect of coaching baseball. And so my first season as a big league pitching coach was actually my last. I had a 3-year contract, but they didn't want me to come back to fulfill the last 2 seasons. I completely understood why. And I was okay with that. I knew it had nothing to do with me as a coach and a person. It had to do with some other bureaucracies and stipulations. And so I had nothing to do with that, Mm-hmm. And I again, like, I had chances to go back, but I really was happy with the path I took. And so that started moving me into, okay, well, what do I really want to be speaking about here? And what's for the greater good here? And what's of more benefit to more people, the masses, and so on and so forth? And so that's where I find myself now, through this pathway of the Mindful Vibin podcast and my soul-centered hour, myself and my partner Dusty, our soul-centered workshops where we're discussing emotional awareness all day, every day. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Fascinating story. And may I first say how cool your mom is. She
Yeah.
took you, and would you say you were 19? And then
Yeah.
it didn't even tell you what it was. And, yeah, and oh my gosh, oh my gosh. I think I did Lifespring when I was really young.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's the one but I did wind up doing Landmark later on for like 12 years. So,
Wow.
so
Wow.
yeah, in Orlando. So I was
Okay.
very, very into Landmark education.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
before that, I'm pretty sure the one I was doing this other thing called Lifespring. I'm pretty sure it was. We went away for like a weekend or something,
Yep. Yep.
and
Yep.
then they had somebody locally that we would get together. Yeah, so that was really
It was a
that
cool
was
experience.
sort of the beginning of my journey. But
Wow.
okay, so I want to say that you run the soul centered workshops, and you
Yeah.
also you are an emotional coach. So I'd like to ask you,
Sure.
um, what is emotional awareness, because I have listened to your podcast and read some of your stuff. So
Sure.
emotional awareness seems to be a lot of what you talk about, so I would love for you to explain. It's very, to me, I resonate with it. It's very
Sure.
much what the same, what Abraham talks about and other people.
Yep.
So yeah, so I'd love for you to tell us what your
For sure.
thing of that is.
My main thing is that there's not a lot of people out there that truly understand what I call the recipe to the soup of life. There's not a lot of people out there that truly get vibration, attraction, and emotions, and what the relationship that those three have with each other, right? That this is a vibrationally based universe, right? And we're emitting a frequency out into the world, and the universe is yielding to that, right? And so that means this is an attraction based universe, and so whatever you're emitting out into the world is coming right back to you, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so it's just like Gabe says, okay, well, if you want to know what you're emitting out so you understand what you'll be getting back, you simply have to be aware of how you're feeling, moment to moment, day to day, week to week, month to month, so on and so forth. And so it's this emotional awareness component that not a lot of people like to delve into, because society has taught us all sorts of different things about emotions, not understanding that, well, your emotions, they are your guidance system. And so it is literally that simple. Could be that complex at the same time if we allow it to be as human beings, but it's also that simple where if you just simply try to get in touch with how you're feeling, and you understand that relationship between you and you, right? That relationship with yourself, then the sky's the limit. There's a whole world out there that can be completely satisfying, content, fulfilling to you. And you can find your passion, and you can create your own reality and create your path, and so on and so forth. But it's not discussed as like you're just in a cafe and hey, let's hey, what's going on for you right now? Like, how are you feeling? Hey, what are you creating? Like, what's going on for you in your life? And so it's covered up with all these other things. That's a lot of misunderstandings going on. And so for me, when I work with people in group settings or one-on-one, the first thing is I just want to set a foundation. Like, what are we always going to come back to when we get lost in our journey, lost on our path? What's the one thing we can always come back to? And so that's the emotional awareness piece. And so I'm always discussing that with everybody.
Yeah, and I know you help people move up the vibrational scale as well as like I do. It's like
Yeah.
very similar where I use the Mallison method, which is Gina Mallison's method in my coaching, where it's her process that
Mhm.
I'm trained in, and I help people move up the vibrational scale. And I know that you in your coaching, because that's I think what you're saying is that's the first step, is being aware of
Yeah.
what you're feeling. And a lot of us aren't even aware of what we're
Yeah.
feeling because
Yeah.
we're just covering it up or just oblivious. But um, correct me if I'm wrong. So you're helping someone, be observant of what they're feeling, like actually acknowledge it, and that's
Yeah.
the important thing. And then
Yeah.
from there, what do you do? Like, how do you help someone?
Yeah. So, I mean, that basis is really, a lot of people, they want to just get to the end real quick, right? You want to get your results, you want to have your manifestations, but it's those manifestations and that consistency of happiness in life comes from the pathway of the work that you're doing along the journey, right? It's you kind of chipping away at being able to soothe yourself on a day-to-day basis, having quality relationships inside your life. And I'm not even talking about with human beings. I'm talking about with all subject matters inside your life, right? And giving others the benefit of the doubt and understanding what compassion really means and how that feels inside of you when you're talking with other people, And none of this can happen unless, again, you choose to be aware of how you're feeling. So for me, the first things first is, like, for example, at a workshop, we're going to pull out, I mean, after we were setting a foundation and we're doing some other things, but then we're going to pull out the emotional guidance scale. That's simple. We're going to pull it out. We're going to talk about what each of the rungs on the ladders representing, right? All the emotions from, 22 up to 1, right? We're specifying those 21 or 22 mentioned emotions, right? But the the understanding is that each one of those emotions is information. It's not a judgment. There's not a good or a bad to it. There's not a right or a wrong to it. It's information. And so we're basically trying to restructure, reframe what emotions mean for people, because most people are suppressing emotions. They don't want to feel emotions, not realizing it's the best thing in the world to be emotionally sensitive, because it provides you with the information. And that's all you're trying to do is, what is the information that I have here with this feeling place? And what can it lead me to? So that's the first thing that we're ever going to discuss. And we try not to move beyond that piece until we understand that, at least intellectually, right? Like, you're not going to embody that maybe right away, but intellectually, we can at least understand that.
Well, that's I love that, because I think even for me personally, I would feel bad if I have a certain emotion. Like,
Yes.
oh, I'm not supposed to have that emotion.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, that's a bad emotion. And,
Yes.
Like we often say in my circles, like, oh, you're just putting a happy face sticker on the bad emotion, because a lot of us have interpreted, like, the teachings of Abraham to mean that we're never supposed to feel a negative emotion.
Sure.
And that is something that actually in the last 2-3 years, that really popped for me. Oh, it's not that I'm not supposed to feel this negative emotion.
Yes.
I'm supposed to acknowledge, that's not bad or wrong. Like judging myself, like for instance, I live with my dad lives with us, and sometimes I feel frustrated, right?
Sure.
Or something, or I feel this or that. And then I feel guilty for feeling that emotion. And then I'm beating myself up for feeling that emotion. And then I get to, oh, wait a minute, it's okay. And then I love my dad, and I love having him here. And but I allow myself to go through the process and not beat myself up. So what you're saying is that you don't want to skip that step of acknowledging the negative emotion.
Any emotion. It's really interesting at these workshops, because when you introduce the scale, right, and you just give it to them, you say, okay, read it from the bottom up, because at the bottom are worst feeling emotions, right? Your depression, your victimhood, your powerlessness, right? Your low self-worth. And then you know, up the scale you go, right? But it's so amazing when you give them the scale and you say, okay, start looking at these emotions. Give us what you think about these emotions. Which ones are you allowed to feel? Which ones are you not supposed to feel? And there's a story around these emotions. Like, for example, blame. You're not allowed to blame somebody else for what's going on with you. But it's very interesting, if you don't allow yourself to go through that, it doesn't mean in life you're going to go outside and blame everybody for what's going on with you. But in that moment, if you don't allow yourself, while you're processing an emotion, if you don't allow yourself to process it, you can't move on from it. So it just keeps coming back and keeps coming back and keeps coming back. You can't soothe it. And so it's really interesting how we create that relationship in the workshop of, oh, it's okay in this place where I'm practicing, I'm using it as an exercise. It's okay to feel this way because I'm allowing myself to let it go, to allow myself to feel it and then let it go, so I can move up to another better feeling emotion and up to another better, and on we go. And so it's just like you want to have a relationship with your father or your best friend or your sister, your mother. It's the same thing with having a relationship with an emotion. You got to be able to have a relationship with emotion, because just like you said, if you add to the resistance by beating yourself up for feeling a certain way, you just stay stuck in feeling that way, or it gets worse.
Yeah. Well, while you were talking, I was thinking of the emotions that are allowable to me, for me, and the ones are not. And I was like, oh, anger. Like, I'm allowed to, you know, if I feel angry and I actually get, you know, I'm short with someone, or I snap at them, or I bite their head off.
Yes.
That's that. Then I'm very disappointed in myself, and I've got, you know, I soothe myself. I know how, I have tools. I know how to soothe myself, or I get a calibration from one of the practitioners that that I'm in a group with. But that one, I really am like, that's not.
Like, I should be better than that as a person. And of course, like, feeling it is one thing, and then if you do snap on someone, it's a whole nother thing.
Oh, that's exactly. Then I'm really like, oh man, you failed. You snapped at somebody. You're not as, you know, spiritually advanced as you thought you were, you know.
Exactly. And that's the thing. It's like, if you don't allow yourself to get in relationship with, like, what does anger feel like for me? Why does that come up for me sometimes? What's centered around that? Then it's really going to be a snap thing all the time. You're going to continue. That'll be a knee-jerk reaction more often than not. But if you understand it, you understand when it's creeping up, when it's about to come out, you go, oh, here comes anger. All right, let me walk out of this room right now. Or I'm going to take a deep breath and just tell this person we're going to resume this conversation at another point in time. And you find ways to deal with it. And you're still going to have your days where, like, you know what, I'm going to let this fly because I'm not holding this in any longer, and I'll deal with it afterwards. Because sometimes, you know, like Abe says, the snowball is running down the mountain, and you just can't stop it at the bottom, right? So you gotta let it run over you, and you'll deal with it after the fact. But there's always an opportunity for creating that relationship, you know, for that soothing portion.
If you've built up momentum over the years or even decades struggling with negative emotions and find yourself wanting to feel better, help is on the way. My private coaching sessions are based on the law of attraction. I also am an endorsed Mallison Method practitioner, which means I use this method created by Gina Mallison to help you move up the vibrational scale on any topic that's bothering you. Abraham Hicks frequently talks about calibration as a useful tool to help us improve our experience of life. Many people work with me because they want to accept their bodies, experience more health and vitality, discover food freedom, or release pounds. That being said, I work with people on any subject because, as you know, everything is connected. If you'd like to schedule a session or coaching package with me, please go to deliciousalignment.com/coaching. I have an incredible offer for you there. Are you a visual learner? If you are, you will enjoy the video version of my book, Delicious Alignment: How 25 Women Learn to Love and Transform Their Bodies Using Abraham Hicks and the Law of Attraction. This online course includes video lessons for 5 weeks covering the 5-step program from my book. These 5 steps help you learn how to love your body, your food, and your life. The 5 steps are: Step 1, get off the scale and get in alignment. Step 2, start a love affair with your body. Step 3, create a new story. Step 4, make friends with food. And Step 5, build momentum toward the body and life you want. There are 20 videos in total, and the course also includes the audios and transcripts of part 1 of my book, plus journal exercises to help you integrate the material. Simply go to deliciousalignment.com/online-course to find out more, or find the link in the show notes. Yeah, so I have an interesting question for you.
Sure.
What have you noticed in the difference between men and women in terms of feeling emotions? Because, you know, my sense would be that women obviously are more apt to talk about their emotions or what they're feeling. And my experience, you know, with even my husband or my son, not so much my son. He likes to talk about his emotions, but my husband really not too much. So do you see a difference? Because I saw in your soul-centered workshops, you know, your testimonials, there's a real big mix there of men and women that attend workshops, and a lot of them are executives, it seems like. So you've got people from all over the you know, kind of the board there. So what's your experience in seeing the differences there between men and women?
Well, it's super interesting. Like, I don't think it's as much as the man does this and the woman does this. It's like, it's more of when you show up, what is your ability to open up? What is your ability to want to kind of listen and allow it to soak in, as opposed to I'm answering before I'm done listening. So so I don't really see it as a man-woman thing. I'm trying to think if, like, because to be honest with you, like, most people would think that a man is just not wanting to feel his emotions or not aware of them, right? But we've had plenty of women that come and tell us they haven't felt like themselves for years, some of them for decades. And so right there, that's telling you that, like, there's not a difference between a man not feeling emotions or a woman not feeling emotions. It's just literally who's the human being inside of you that will allow you to want to open up, to feel safe in expressing emotions or feeling emotions. I think it's way more about being scared to feel a certain way, because sometimes feeling those lesser feeling, those lesser good feeling emotions, it hurts. It doesn't feel good, like pain of loss of a loved one or a breakup. You know, those things, those hurt like at the depths of you, right? And so maybe it's more of the difference in the way of how a man handles feeling that emotion and how a woman handles feeling that emotion. And I think maybe that's how the separation goes, where a man will go, oh, no, I'm okay, da, 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 da. And a woman might be like, no, I don't feel okay, but I don't know what to do to get out of it. And so maybe it's a little more about that.
Well, yeah, you know, when I think about like people that I coach mostly women, although I'm happy to coach men as well, but a lot of women are not feeling certain things, like you said, they haven't felt this way in a long time, and they'll feel something like, for instance, we talk a lot about food or their
Mm-hmm.
relationship with food, their relationship with their body.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the women that I coach haven't allowed themselves to find pleasure out of food. Okay.
For sure.
For
For
years and
sure.
years and years,
Oh,
they are
absolutely.
not they are
Absolutely.
not allowing themselves to find pleasure out of food, something that we are meant to enjoy and
Agreed.
celebrate. Yes. So, and then they'll like feel these emotions for the first time,
Mm-hmm.
and or they'll feel a painful emotion for the first time because
Mm-hmm.
they've stuffed it down so much, and
Yeah.
in the coaching session they haven't allowed themselves to feel it, and then all of a sudden the tears are just,
Yes.
well, the resistance is being released and it's
Yes.
just rolling out. So yeah, I do see that in women, but I love your answer that it's, you don't even see it as gender.
Yeah, because it's like what is the vibration that makes you up, the energy that makes you up, and that's not a female male thing. We like to label the masculine and the feminine energies, right? Like that's talked about a lot in the spiritual community, right? And I get that, how you could label that's more feminine energy and that's more masculine. I get that, but I don't label it man and woman. The properties that makes you up, your soul, your inner being, your vibration, your experiences, so on and so forth, that like this cover that we have on top of us, that's just how we had a physical body, you know what I mean? But what's underneath that's not man or woman, that's feelings, that's energy, it's molecules,
Yeah,
it's a physics to it. So it's kind of hard to say. For me, I don't explain it in that way.
I love that. I love that. Totally unexpected answer. Thought you were gonna say, "Oh yeah, working with the guys in the locker room," and
Yeah, yeah. Well, you're definitely. I mean, if you take it to that conversation, I mean,
Mhm.
there's no doubt in a male dominated sport, and you're in a locker room, you're not going to get a lot of conversation about how are you feeling inside.
Well,
You know what I mean? You're
yeah,
going to get a lot of conversation of you better toughen up. I don't want to hear that shit. You need to be able to get over it, or so on and so forth. So, but on the other side of that, I've also heard in a women's locker room, you hear a lot of the same stuff. So I don't think it has to do in that realm. See, that's an energy place. That's not a gender thing. So I think it's quite interesting.
environment. You're saying you're in the locker room. You're getting ready for a game. You gotta get
Yeah.
focused. So
Yeah.
yeah,
The professional women athletes aren't sitting there having, like powwows before, like, yeah, like staring at each other's makeup or what, like that's not going on, man. They're doing the same thing the dudes are doing, because it's an energy place. It's not a man woman thing.
good point. Good
Yeah.
point. Okay, well, let's dive into that whole self love
Sure.
body thing, if you don't mind, because I did notice that you had like three podcast
Yeah.
episodes on self love
Yeah.
with your sister,
Yeah.
um, and her name is, let's just,
Jennifer Huberty.
Jennifer Huberty. Yes,
Yeah.
and so obviously you have an interest in this subject, and I know my
Sure.
listeners would love to hear more about it from a male point of view, and not a male point of view.
No,
From a
that's totally fine. That's totally fine. Male
from a
point of view is
human point
great.
of view, from
Yeah.
a spiritual being point of view. Okay,
Sure.
so I listened to your episode 8, and it was about self love and body. And
Yeah.
your sister started out talking about, which I think most people are not surprised to hear, that most American adults are dissatisfied with their body.
Yeah.
Half of young girls report being dissatisfied with their body at 13 years of age, and this
Yeah.
increases to 80% by age 27, and then 80% of women don't like the way they look. Of course, no surprises there.
Sure.
So, what are some things, I don't know, where would you like to go with that conversation in
Sure.
terms of helping our listeners learn to love your body? Because, that is what we talk about a lot.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I would say the first thing is that, again, this male and female thing, I don't think there's a difference. There's many, many, many males out there that are not happy with their body. And they just cover that up with statements that, you know, they'll quickly wipe it off. But there's plenty of men that deal with the same things that women do in regards to how they look and how they feel inside their body, so on and so forth. I think, again, the difference is that in the male society, that's just not being talked about as much as it is in the female society, for whatever those reasons are, you know. And so but it's happening. That's a for sure.
Have you actually, like, I'm just curious, like when you were working with men and as a coach, baseball coach,
Yep.
did you notice it or sense it, because maybe they weren't talking about it, but did you notice it?
Sure. I mean, for me, even personally, like, I was a coach. I wasn't a player, but seeing these professional athletes, and these dudes are 6'4", 220, and this muscle and this athleticism, this prowess, right? And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, like, I'm never going to be this guy. Like, I'm never going to look that way. I'm never going to be this strong. Like, and being around that, when I left baseball, I didn't understand how much I allowed those outside circumstances to dictate how I felt about myself and how I felt about the way I looked. And so when I was done with baseball, I had some work to do there within the first 3 to 6 months of just that part, like walking on the beach and taking my shirt off and not caring, just because I want to soak in the sun. Like, I'm not worried about what anyone else thinks of me, or if they're looking at my body and judging me or laughing at me or what have you. And so those thoughts are real. They come up for everybody. It's just some are really quick at shaking them off. And some of them let them sit there. They let them marinate, and then it grows to bigger and bigger and bigger. And then the next thing you know, yeah, there might be something that you're needing to take care of about your body and your relationship with it.
Yeah. And come to think of it, there is a young male in my life, that's very, very much in kind of like laser focused on that. So you were talking about in this podcast about, when you're looking in the mirror, be aware of what you're feeling when you're looking in the mirror. And if you can't feel better, walk away. Or if you can feel better,
stay there.
There. So tell me more about that. Yeah.
Well, I've had experiences in my life where I've walked by mirrors, or I'm, in the morning, you're getting ready, right? And you look in the mirror and you're like, man, I really look good today, right? I really like how I feel. Like I'm a beautiful person, and man, this is great. And then I've walked by mirrors before, right? And being naked in my room, walking by a mirror going, oh God, what? Oh man, like, I don't want to look at myself anymore. I don't really like how I don't feel good about how I look. And it goes in waves. Sometimes I feel really good and sometimes I don't. And so it's like, partly for me, it's like, well, at the times you realize you're not in your best feeling place about it, it's okay. There's no issue with that. But then don't stand in front of the mirror and watch yourself and ridicule all the different parts of your body you don't appreciate. Just stop looking in the mirror. So, like, for example, when I was younger, I used to lift weights in a gym, right? And I still lift weights from time to time, but like in college days, right? And the times I didn't, like, I would go to a gym and I'd see these big buff dudes, right? With these bulging muscles or whatever. And I didn't feel so good about myself because I was comparing myself to another person, right? I would simply put on long sleeves. So when I went to lift, I'd be looking in the mirror, but couldn't see anything because I had a long sleeve shirt on, and I felt great about that. That allowed me to go do my workout and not care about what was going on around me. I didn't have to wear it. Why do I need to wear a tank top? If I don't feel good about my bulging biceps, like, not putting the tank top on today. Okay, cool. And I move on, right? And so it's just like, again, it's a day-to-day process of checking in. Where am I now? Where am I now? How do I feel now? And then it's okay to make a decision to do something different to improve your mood. You can do that all day, every day.
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree with you about, I always talk about, yeah, like if that triggers you looking in the mirror,
Mm-hmm.
then don't look in the mirror.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just look from neck up, or what, if you
Sure.
have to get dressed, then of course you might need to check yourself out to make sure that your shirt's on the right way or something. But
Yeah.
if it's going to not feel good, then don't do it. But if you are able to look in the mirror and start to soothe yourself and
Yeah.
say good things for you, because I remember how much in, like, years ago, if I would catch myself in the mirror, I would just be I could get depressed for
Abs-
weeks,
Absolutely.
because I'm like, I didn't know I was that big, or I didn't know. And I lost 30 pounds, since being on this journey, but still. And I'm I'm not thin, today I'd like to,
Absolutely.
and I'm like, oh, I'm loving myself more and more and more and more.
Yep.
But back then, if I caught myself a glimpse, like walking past a window in a
Yep.
street, and like, it would just throw me off. So
Sure.
I think it really is about what Abraham says as well, is like whatever feels good right
Yeah. Yeah. And the funny thing about it is, like, for me, and I don't know if you've had this experience, but I've basically been the same weight for about 20 years. I have fluctuated.
No, have not had that experience. No,
But
no.
wait. I'm going to get to something here, because you might agree with this once I get to it, though.
And that's okay. We love you
Totally,
anyway. It's
totally,
okay.
totally okay. But this is what I mean by that. I'll some days look in the mirror and, let's say, feel fat, okay? But I'm the same weight as it 2 weeks later or a day later. I look in the mirror and I'm like, man, I feel good. I feel slim. I feel trim. I feel fit. And literally could be just about, maybe there was something that I put inside of my body that didn't sit well with me. And so it was like, I'm looking at my body and I'm feeling it out. I'm like, I feel this way, right? And so it's the understanding of that. It's it's the awareness of that. Oh, I just ate something that didn't agree with me today, or oh, I'm just in one of those moods, or. It's not about you don't like yourself. That's not really what's going on there. And so sometimes people just misunderstand how they're feeling. There's plenty of times where people are feeling a way and they think they're way down on the scale, but that's not it. They're really not in that feeling place. And so it's an interesting game there. The relationship with your emotions, it can be very interesting for a lot of people.
Yeah. So, like, I work with a lot of women who their interpretation is that they really don't like themselves. They really don't like the way they look. So,
Sure.
and I've been there myself, where, so are you saying that you're, I don't know, it seems like we really don't like ourselves in those moments.
Yes, in those moments.
Yeah.
And that it's really not, it may or may not be the undercurrent of what's really going on, is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
It's just in the moment that you walk by the mirror and you make that the subject, because you're in that mood, there's nothing that's going to go on that you can think about your life in that moment that you're not going to find fault with, because that's where you're at. And so it might feel as though you don't like yourself when you're looking in the mirror, but it's more about the mood you're in, the frequency you're tapped into, right? The radio station that you're listening to at the time. Mm-hmm. That's really what it's about. And so that's a confusing thing sometimes. And that's what I meant about that relationship with those emotions.
Yeah, really interesting, because when I think about what you're saying, so many times we think it's about the body, okay, like what you're saying, but there definitely, once you get into it, it's like there's this stress about money, or there's this stress about your marriage, or there's, it's
Yes.
like it can be actually other things. It's all, because everything's related. It's all interconnected there.
Yes.
But
And that could just be a low hanging fruit. Like that's the easiest thing to use as your excuse to keep yourself in a less than feeling place. Because I'm sure when you talk to some of these women, if you talk to them about other aspects of their life, they can be in joy. They can be smiling. Well, that means right there, they're not, they don't not like themselves, right? It's that instance of time. And so it's like when they're in that feeling place, could they then look at their body and find one area to appreciate? And then can that area grow into 2 to 3 to 4? And then all of a sudden, that body relationship totally reframes itself, restructures itself, but you're the same person. So what happened?
yeah,
And it's just you chose to get into a different focus, different part of attention when you looked at yourself.
yeah, yeah. So what else would you say to women who, or men, who are not, let's not forget men, no, always, and you, who are in that space.
Yeah.
They're just, um, they're not, appreciating their bodies, or if they're just feeling like, oh, I want to lose weight.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really focus on weight loss so much as
Sure.
loving yourself, and
Yes.
loving, accepting where you are,
Yes.
and then beginning, like a lot of people, they can't even find one thing they appreciate about their body. That's how far it gets. But then we start out with like, well, what can you appreciate, like a puppy dog, or your niece, or your, the sunrise, your bed, or something. And then gradually move into finding, like you said, something you appreciate about your body, and then having that.
Yeah.
So what else would you, I'm sure in your workshops you've had people with, body issues and stuff like that here and there.
For sure.
Yeah. What else would you like to say to anyone who's listening that is struggling with their body image?
Yeah. Well, I think first of all, it's about, like, it's okay to feel that way about yourself. Like, you're not doing something wrong. A lot of people in their lives at one point or another are feeling the same way you are. So it's not like an isolated thing. You're not a bad person. You're not weird. You're not wrong. Like, it's okay. But then there does have to be a decision made, like somewhere in that process. You are going to have to make the decision that you are going to choose to like something about yourself anyways, that you are going to choose to take your focus towards some aspect of your life where you can find some piece of joy, some piece of contentment, some piece of satisfaction. The toughest part about the body image deal is because you're carrying yourself around all day, every day. Mm-hmm. You're walking by the mirrors all day, every day. Someone might make a comment. You might, again, like you're talking about with food, right? This relationship with food all day, every day, because you have to give yourself, right, this food to nourish yourself. So I think it's like you have to just take it way, way easy and be like, hey, let's just be okay with where we are. And everything is okay. And we're all starting from a certain point. And if we can just be easy about where we are and understand that it is okay, you've done nothing wrong. Let's just see what we could do right now in this moment, or what we could do today to allow ourselves to feel just that little bit better.
Yeah.
Don't do anything else. No judgment, no result driven, no measuring, just right here, right now. Can we just be okay.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's easier said than done, but it's with anybody. You have to make the decision that that's what you're going to start doing. Because if you don't make the decision, it can't happen, period. If you don't have the intention, the universe is not listening to you. It's not responding to you.
Yeah. Yeah. Just like what you were talking about acknowledging the emotion that you're feeling, like allowing yourself to feel that emotion, allowing yourself to acknowledge where you are, in regards to your body. Like,
Yeah.
here, you're in this place right now, and
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah.
And just like acknowledging where
Yeah.
it is. And I remember, because I used to be a binge eater. So,
Yeah.
like in my 20s, I mean, I would just to numb my feelings, like an alcoholic would use alcohol to numb your feelings, and then like I would feel, not want to feel, right? Not want to feel
Yeah.
my emotions. So that's why that happened. And then not wanting to, then it just was a cycle.
Yeah.
Not wanting to accept now what I just did, not wanting
Yeah.
to feel those feelings, or not wanting to accept, oh, I just probably gained 5 pounds on my thighs, and then yeah, but because I believe that, I I created it, and so, but just going back, and then, but when I got to the point where I could
Yes.
accept
Yeah.
where I am right now in this
Yeah.
moment, accept where my body is right now in this moment, just
Yeah.
accept, then I could begin to
So one of the yeah, I think I call it kind of like play. You got to play it down, like, because it's part of the reason why I wanted to start that podcast with my sister in the first place, is because, like, for example, the second episode we had a young lady who was a week out from having a miscarriage, and she chose to come on the show with us, and I thought it was awesome, because here was a woman who wasn't coming from a victim. She wasn't feeling sorry for herself. She knew what was going on in her life, and she wanted to share it, not as a victim, but she wanted to share it as a way of awareness and empowerment, which is totally different than what you would think would go on a week after that type of experience, right?
mm-hmm.
But what's interesting is, in this mental health pandemic we're having in our world these days, right? Everybody is going through all of these different experiences. And so I think part of this is being able to play it down, that this is normal in the way human beings get caught. We get caught all the time, and it's okay. If you're sitting in a room of people that are berating you for how you look, right? Or for the foods you're eating, or making fun of you, or whatever, as a kid, right? And you grow up in that environment, it seems normal that you would also then feel this way about yourself. And so the thing about it that we want to separate ourselves from, it doesn't mean we have to continue it, though. So it's like, if you realize, you know what, I'm tired of feeling this way. Okay, cool. Now let's do something about it. Well, what do we know about how the universe works? What do we know about our relationship inside of the universe, and how we can create a different reality from where we are now? And so if you can get on that path, now we can get somewhere. But you have to be, just like you're saying, you have to get to a point of acceptance. You have to be okay with it. But for me, I guess I'm saying it more in a way of like, everyone has had a booger before and they picked it. And some of you have eaten it, and it's okay. You know what I mean? Like, let's just talk about it. It's okay. So we use all sorts of things in our life: drugs, sex, alcohol, food, body image. We use all things in our life because that just sometimes happens. But guess what? The same way you got into it is the same way we can get ourselves out of it. You're not stuck. There's nothing that we can't undo in our lifetime. And so that's what we have to be able to hold on to. We got to believe in that.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. So I want you to tell me a little bit, Doug, about where people can find you. If they want to learn more about you, tell me more about your soul-centered workshop. I guess that's soulcenteredworkshop.com.
Yeah, it's soul-centered _ workshops on Instagram. Yes, it's soulcenteredworkshops.com. Sorry, yes, soulcenteredworkshops.com.
Yeah.
And then the IG handle is soul-centered _ workshops. My personal one is Douglas Bryant White for Instagram at Douglas Bryant White. So for me, it's more of like I'm getting into this because I transitioned, from the big leagues. I'm getting into this place where I'm identifying more of what I want to be doing and how I want to be feeling and how I'm wanting to make my schedule for my days and shape my life and create my life. So I'm just getting into that portion of like, okay, here come the workshops. And now I'm getting into more coaching, but I'm doing some coaching with athletes. I'm doing some coaching with anybody and everybody. It's more of a word of mouth deal, Yeah. So I don't have a personal website, right? So that the website Soul Center Workshops, and then my Instagram handle would be the best way to email me, reach out, DM me. We can have a discussion on all sorts of things.
So your workshops are in-person workshops?
Yes, they are in person. We don't want to do the Zoom thing because we have small intimate groups. Like we don't do more than 12 people yet. We want to make sure, first of all, that we have it down. We feel really good about the foundation of the information that we're giving, because every time we do a workshop, we continue to evolve, right? We're talking about this every day. And so we feel really good about what we're calling our 101 workshop right now. And so we'll then grow from that, right? We'll start to advance our workshops from there. But we want you present because you got to learn how to feel. Mm-hmm. That's all we do. Once we give you some of the basis of the information, the rest of the workshop is practices. And the practices are all going to be evolving around whether you can feel what you're writing in a practice exercise or what you're feeling in a breathwork exercise, right? Mm-hmm. And so, we want you present and we want you available and we want you to share and we want you to talk out loud. And even if you're uncomfortable about it, it's okay. We'll get through it. And we don't force anybody, obviously, to do anything.
No.
Yes, it's a very loving, accepting, compassionate. It's a beautiful environment. Like, I can't say enough of how amazing it's been and the feedback that we're getting and the testimonials. Like it's amazing. It touches my heart, touches my soul every time we hear back from our attendees.
Yeah, I've read all the ones on the Soul Centered Workshop website. Yeah. So tell me, like, where do you do these workshops?
Yeah, so right now we started in Phoenix and Scottsdale area. And so if you go on the website, you can see 4 months out in advance. Right now, we're going to start in Encinitas. So actually, we have one coming up May 14th and 15th in Encinitas, California, so North County, San Diego. And we'll be doing one a month in Encinitas until September. Mm-hmm. And then we'll continue in Scottsdale. But anybody, if like, for example, you were interested in it and you wanted us to come to your city, and you wanted to set up a workshop in your city, we'd be more than happy to speak to you about it.
Nice. Well, it sounds like I've never been to San Diego yet, but.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know, it's gorgeous.
Man, it's the best. I don't know how that hasn't happened yet for you.
I know. I've been to a lot of places, but I haven't been there. Yeah. Well, great. Anything else you want to share? About emotional awareness or anything at all?
Well, I just think, it's something that I love talking about. I'm very passionate about it. And I just greatly appreciate you having me on the show so that I could have this conversation with you.
Yeah. It's been great. It's been wonderful learning about you. I even listened to some of your hot seats. I know they go back a little while, but.
Oh, man, they go back. They go back like at least 20 years.
How is that? You just kept going and you kept.
I would just go like to one a year, basically.
Yeah, and you get.
Yeah, I just kept getting called on. So I know I've been in the hot seat like over a couple dozen times.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, me and Abe, we have a nice little relationship going.
Oh my gosh, that's fantastic. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, great. Well, you can stay on the line, Doug, because I just wanted to ask you about your sister, if she'd like to be on the podcast. But I'm going to go ahead and say thank you so much for being here.
No
I
problem.
really enjoyed it and appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Here are the takeaways from this interview. 1. This is a vibrationally based universe. Whatever you're emitting out into the world is coming right back to you. 2. Emotions aren't good or bad because they always provide valuable information about your current state and what you may be attracting. 3. Understanding and feeling your emotions is key to creating the life you desire. 4. There is value in allowing yourself to feel and identify the emotions you're experiencing without judgment. 5. Emotional awareness can help you live a more fulfilling and awe-inspired life. 6. You're not stuck, you're on the brink of another breakthrough. 7. If you're having trouble loving and accepting your body, start out by finding one thing you appreciate about it. 8. If you find yourself criticizing your body when looking in the mirror, stop looking in the mirror. Walk away. Try again when you're feeling like you're in a better mood. 9. Men and women are more alike than you think. And 10. Allowing yourself to acknowledge and accept where you are helps you move forward. I hope you enjoyed my interview with Doug White and his wonderful insights on the benefits of emotional awareness. Find out more about Doug's workshops at soulcenteredworkshops.com. Connect with him on Instagram at Douglas Bryant White and at soulcentered_workshops. Make sure to join me and thousands of other delicious aligners in my Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/delicious-alignment. Again, find all these links and more mentioned in the podcast at delicious-alignment.com/podcast in the show notes. I've got wonderful guests lined up for you in the coming months with people who have used the law of attraction to love their bodies and finally discover food freedom. I'm also going to add interviews with people who have used the law of attraction to create more health and well-being and abundance and wealth in their lives. Exciting stuff. So make sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts or follow us on Spotify. Do you know someone who could benefit from this message? If so, please help me spread the word by sharing about this podcast on Instagram, posting on Facebook, or texting the link delicious-alignment.com/podcast to a friend who might benefit from getting in on this conversation. Make sure to tag me when you share so I can say hi. Thanks again for listening. I appreciate you, and I love hearing how this podcast is making a difference in your life. Till next time.